Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Cameron, for that beautiful music. And thank all of you for coming on this gorgeous Sunday when you could be out hanging around under a tree. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The wonder is that we can see trees and not wonder more." Trees are indeed worthy of wonder, and yet they are so much a part of our landscape that it's easy to forget that they're there. We are here this morning to give thanks to the utter wonderfulness of trees and to consider what we might be able to learn from them. So right now, I'd like everybody to pause for just a moment. Think about a tree, either in your past or your present, which was or is in some way special to you. Maybe it offers a shady spot in a park you frequent. Maybe it is a beautiful and beloved presence like myrtle in your yard or your neighborhood. Maybe it was one of those magical giants, climbable from your childhood, that was whatever you needed it to be, a pirate ship, a secret hideout, a rocket to the moon. Was everybody able to picture a tree? Yeah, I thought so. What is it about trees? Why do they feed our imagination? What sort of energy flows between them and us that causes so many to feel an almost spiritual connection? The writer Ruth Wilson posits, our strong connections with trees may be based in part on the fact that trees and humans share similar physical characteristics. We stand upright, have a crown on top, mobile limbs stemming from a central trunk. The pattern of the tubular branches, the bronchi in our lungs, is similar to the root systems of many trees. Maybe that is part of the fascination. There are obvious reasons that trees are so important to us. They provide us with so many materials we use in our day-to-day lives: wood for homes and furniture, paper, so much more. Fruits and nuts and even sap from trees nourish us. Over the centuries, bark, leaves, and the roots of trees have been used to make soap, dyes, and medicines. Trees help save water and keep our homes cooler. And far beyond our own paltry human needs, trees provide homes for nourishment for countless animals and insects. They prevent erosion, and as the lungs of the planet, they absorb harmful carbon dioxide from the air and produce life-sustaining oxygen. Trees have long been the source and sometimes the site of inspiration to humans. The Bodhi tree is a member of the fig family, and for thousands of years has been revered in Hinduism as the home of three of their major gods, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. It was under the Bodhi tree more than 2,500 years ago that the young Prince Siddhartha sat, reached enlightenment, becoming the Buddha. It probably won't surprise you to learn that the scientific name for the Bodhi tree is Ficus religiosa. How about those scientific light bulb goes on inspirations? Even though the apple falling from a tree in a yard in Lincolnshire, England, most likely did not hit young Isaac Newton on the head, it did affect him, prompting him to write, it affected in him, quote, a reverie that in time crystallized into the law of gravity. No small thing. The banyan tree of Asia has branches that grow downward into the earth, growing into trunks themselves. This inspired Mahatma Gandhi to create the term satyagraha, loosely translated as a polite insistence on the truth. And don't we need more of that? Gandhi wrote, satyagraha is like the banyan tree. Satya, truth, and ahimsa, nonviolence, together make the present trunk from which innumerable branches shoot. We must fearlessly spread the doctrine of satya and ahimsa, and then, and not until then, shall we be able to undertake mass satyagraha. Also, along with these religious, scientific, and social justice inspirations, trees have been the muses for countless works of visual visual art, music, and literature. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the role in healing and overall health that trees play in our lives. Since ancient time, the bark of the willow has been used as a remedy for fevers and chills. Sumerians, Egyptians, and Native Americans chewed it for its curative powers. By the 19th century, chemists had synthesized the healing chemical of the willow tree to create what we now call, anyone? Bingo, aspirin. A compound in the national tree of Japan, the sugi, has been proven to reduce blood pressure, heart rate, and the production of stress hormones while improving sleep quality, mood, and focus. For this reason, Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, has become a vital part of preventative health care in Japan. This involves a short, leisurely visit to a forest to relax and breathe in the wood's essential oils. The practice has been found to be so beneficial that Japan has created 65 official forest therapy trails. Probably many of us have had the experience of standing among trees in a forest and feeling restored by just being in the presence. Recent research in Toronto has found that just having more trees lining streets in urban neighborhoods can have positive physical and psychological effects on the residents. For all of these gifts mentioned thus far, trees deserve our gratitude and respect. But there is more. Trees have a wisdom to share with us if we are open and willing to listen. Hermann Hesse wrote, quote, "For me, trees have always been the most penetrating creatures. I revere them when they live in tribes and families in forests and groves. And even more, I revere them when they stand alone. In their highest boughs, the world rustles. Their roots rest in infinity. Nothing is holier, nothing is more exemplary than a beautiful, strong tree. Trees are sanctuaries. Whoever knows how to speak to them, whoever knows how to listen to them, can learn the truth. They do not preach learning and precepts. They preach, undeterred by particulars, the ancient law of life. A tree says, a kernel is hidden in me, a spark, a thought. I am life from eternal life. I was made to form and reveal the eternal in my smallest special detail. When we are stricken and cannot bear our lives any longer, then a tree has something to say to us. Be still. Be still. Look at me. Life is not easy. Life is not difficult. Those are childish thoughts. Home is neither here nor there. Home is within you, or home is nowhere at all. I think this is a very Buddhist tree, a tree with a valuable lesson. Life is not easy. Life is not difficult. Life is. And the sooner we accept that and put aside attachments and strivings, Hesse says, the sooner we find inner peace. Hesse concludes by saying, whoever has learned to listen to trees no longer wants to be a tree. He wants to be nothing except what he is. That is home. If there is any living creature that can teach us about being present and living in the moment, surely it is a tree. A lesson in nurturing is offered by the alder tree. Alders release nitrogen into the soil to benefit its neighbor trees. For this reason, it's called a pioneer species and is often the first tree to grow in a damaged ecosystem, such as after clear-cutting or a fire. Alders were used in reforestation projects because they create a fertile environment in which other trees can take root. The alder was one of the trees responsible for turning hundreds of acres of forest in Washington state green again after they were destroyed by the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Do you remember those pictures of the forest? They looked like matchsticks. They were just mowed down. and the alders helped restore that. A study of a beech forest in Germany has shown that trees cooperate with each other for the greater good. A tree is not a forest on its own. It cannot establish a consistent local climate, but many trees can create an ecosystem that moderates extremes of heat and cold, stores water, and generates humidity. In an environment like this, trees can live to be very old, but for that to happen, the community must remain intact. So what do? The stronger trees, through their roots and some friendly neighborhood fungi, share their abundance of nutrients and sugars with the weaker trees. So all the trees can thrive in the forest, and the forest will remain strong. In nature, we tend to think it's all survival of the fittest. But here we have a clear example of the fittest sharing their own nutrients to support the weaker trees for the benefit of the entire forest. I know I am anthropomorphizing here, but it does make me wonder if there is some deeper knowledge that trees possess, perhaps at a cellular level. It also makes me wonder what our communities, our country, and our world would look like if the sharing of resources for the benefit of all was our first natural human response. There are trees that teach us about survival. In the National September 11th Memorial Plaza at Ground Zero in New York City, there is a calorie pear. Calorie pears are good city trees because they grow straight and they don't require a lot of care. This particular tree was very close to the World Trade Center when the towers fell back in September of 2001. 10 months later, the New York City Parks Department rescued the tree, the last living thing pulled from the wreckage. As you might expect, the pear tree was badly damaged and was put in the care of the park horticulturists, who nursed it back to health. In 2010, the rescued calorie pear was planted in the Memorial Plaza. Visitors can see the scars in the bark, the lines where the tree encountered death and began to grow again. The tree stands as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is a seed, a blossom, a new growth, and a hope for survival. To that end, the 9/11 Memorial gives seedlings from the calorie pear to communities that have endured tragedies. The poet, Grace Butcher, tells us that trees can also teach us about death and letting go. Her poem is called Learning from Trees. If we could, like the trees, practice dying, do it every year just as something we do, like going on vacation or celebrating birthdays, it would become as easy a part of us as our hair and clothing. Someone would show us how to lie down and fade away as if in the deepest meditation. And we would learn about the fine, dark emptiness, both knowing it and not knowing it, and coming back would be irrelevant. Whatever it is trees know, when they stand undone, surprisingly intricate, we need to know also, so we can allow that last thing to happen to us as if it were only any ordinary thing, leaves and lives falling away, the spirit complex, waiting in the fine darkness to learn which way it will go. I don't worry a lot about death, but I do hold on to attitudes and ideas that weigh me down and hold me back. And this example of a tree in winter undone, empty of leaves, is a helpful lesson of the importance of letting go, of shedding things we burden ourselves with, allowing ourselves to settle into the darkness and see what emerges in the spring. And what about the tree of life? It will probably not surprise you to learn that the concept of a tree of life appears in the mythologies of Scandinavians, Aztecs, Native Americans, Assyrians, and ancient Egyptians, just to name a few. A tree of life also figures in the stories of many world religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. For an actual tree of life, this title is ascribed to the baobab tree of Africa and Madagascar. This succulent provides water for people in times of drought and also provides a nutrient-dense fruit that has nurtured people and animals for thousands of years. And then there's this Tree of Life congregation. I understand that not everybody was a fan of the congregation's name when we changed it all those years ago, but I've always liked it. There's something evocative in the imagery of a being that, as writer Kim Taplin says, though rooted in the earth, seems to touch the sky. The church's motto, rooted in love, reaching for justice, echoes that sense of being both grounded and aspirational. So how tree-like is Tree of Life? Well, if you've ever read Patrick Murphin's comprehensive history of this congregation, which is, I think, under the About Us tab of the homepage, you would probably agree that, like the Callery Pair at Ground Zero, this church is a survivor. If you were to take a cross-section of our 150-plus year history, of our 150-plus year trunk, it would show, as Hermann Hesse wrote, in the rings of its years, its scars, all the struggles, all the sufferings, all the happiness and prosperity stand truly written, the narrow years and the luxurious years, the attacks withstood, the storms endured. As for the rest, I suppose the answers are as varied as the experience of the members and friends who gather here. Did you come here hurting or ailing in spirit and find healing in the message of Unitarian Universalism that you are enough, you are loved, and you are not alone? Have you been inspired by sermons or music or the works done here? Do you feel it's our job as a religious community to reach beyond ourselves like the alder trees and help repair the damage and injustice of the world? Is Tree of Life enough like that beech forest in Germany, lending support to members and friends in times of illness, hardship, and loss? As a human, and thus imperfect community, we know we can be better at all of these things. And we need to be as forgiving of ourselves and each other as the Kimbrell family were to their myrtle tree. In my over 40 years with this congregation, I have seen it battered by the winds of change and challenge. And you know what I see? Stars. Like the cottonwood, so many members have friends, have harnessed the power of their interior stars, stepped up and worked to light the way and keep this church going for more than 150 years. This church community has been a healing, inspirational, nurturing, supporting presence in the lives of so many. It would not have lasted this long if it were not so. It is my hope that Tree of Life UU will remain firmly rooted and reaching skyward for many more years to come. May it be so.